Our economy will soar, jobs will surge, manufacturing will boom, and our country will prosper like never, ever before. We got to get this big, beautiful deal done. We got to get it done, and get it done now. Don't wait 2 weeks. Don't wait 2 weeks. Bad things happen. I'll do anything, sir. We got to kick their asses. Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know? They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid. Somebody had to do what we did, and I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate, and that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate. A deal's going to be made with China. A deal's going to be made with every one of them, and there'll be fair deals. I just want fair. They will be fair deals for everybody, but they weren't fair to the United States. They were sucking us dry, and you can't do that.
Donald Trump, a name synonymous with disruption and controversy. His presidency casts a long shadow on global affairs. His penchant for deliberate chaos, especially in trade, created global volatility. This strategy presented challenges and opportunities for nations and investors. Trump's core strategy relied on calculated unpredictability. Abrupt policy shifts, often via Twitter, sent shockwaves through markets. This essay explores Trump's chaos strategy and its impact on Southeast Asia. Trump's trade war arsenal was as unconventional as his approach to diplomacy. Tariffs became his weapon of choice, imposing hefty levies on goods from China, Mexico, and the European Union. He argued these tariffs were necessary to protect American jobs and reduce the trade deficit. Another tactic was his penchant for brinkmanship, walking away from agreements like the TPP. This approach yielded some successes, but also created instability in global markets. Southeast Asia, a region heavily reliant on global trade, found itself caught in the crossfire of Trump's trade wars. As a manufacturing and export powerhouse, the region felt the impact of his tariffs acutely. Countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia, heavily integrated into global supply chains, faced significant challenges. The imposition of tariffs on Chinese goods had a ripple effect on Southeast Asia. Many companies in the region were part of China's supply chain. When tariffs made Chinese goods more expensive, demand fell, impacting businesses across Southeast Asia. This impact highlighted the interconnectedness of the global economy and the unintended consequences of protectionist policies. However, amidst the challenges, opportunities also emerged. The trade war forced Southeast Asian nations to diversify their economies and reduce their reliance on the U.S. market. This diversification led to increased trade within the region, and with other global partners like the European Union and Japan. The trade war also accelerated the shift towards digital economies in Southeast Asia. As traditional trade routes were disrupted, businesses increasingly turned to e-commerce and digital platforms to reach consumers. This shift, while initially driven by necessity, positioned the region for long-term growth in the digital economy. Section 4. Singapore. Navigating the storm with pragmatism. Singapore, a nation built on free trade and global interconnectedness, felt the tremors of Trump's trade policies. As a small nation heavily reliant on exports, any disruption to global trade flows had a significant impact. However, true to its nature, Singapore responded with pragmatism and adaptability. The government recognized the need to diversify its economic partners and reduce its reliance on the U.S. market. It actively pursued free trade agreements with other countries and blocs, including the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, the successor to the TPP. Singapore also focused on strengthening its position as a global hub for innovation and technology. It invested heavily in research and development, attracting multinational companies looking to set up regional headquarters and research facilities. This strategy helped cushion the impact of the trade war and positioned Singapore for long-term growth in the knowledge-based economy. Singapore's response to the trade war exemplified its resilience and adaptability. By embracing diversification, innovation, and a global outlook, it navigated the challenges successfully, emerging stronger and more resilient. Section 5. Vietnam and Malaysia caught in the tariff crossfire. Vietnam and Malaysia, two export-oriented economies in Southeast Asia, found themselves directly in the crossfire of Trump's trade war. Both countries had built significant manufacturing sectors integrated into global supply chains, particularly in electronics and textiles. The tariffs imposed on Chinese goods initially benefited Vietnam and Malaysia, as companies sought to relocate their manufacturing operations to avoid the levies. However, this advantage proved short-lived. Trump, in his characteristically unpredictable manner, soon turned his sights on these countries, accusing them of currency manipulation and unfair trade practices. Tariffs were imposed on Vietnamese and Malaysian goods, impacting their exports to the U.S. This situation highlighted the vulnerability of being caught in the middle of a trade war between larger powers. It also underscored the importance of diversifying export markets and reducing reliance on a single trading partner. Vietnam and Malaysia responded by engaging in negotiations with the U.S. to reduce tariffs and resolve trade disputes. They also sought to diversify their export markets, focusing on increasing trade with other Asian countries, the European Union, and emerging markets. Section 6. Profiting from Volatility, the Savvy Investor's Playbook. While Trump's trade wars created uncertainty and volatility, they also presented opportunities for astute investors. The key was to understand the patterns beneath the seemingly chaotic surface and act strategically. Trump's decisions, while often presented as impulsive, were frequently driven by domestic political calculations. By closely monitoring the U.S. political landscape and understanding his motivations, investors could anticipate his moves and position themselves accordingly. For instance, his tendency to escalate trade tensions ahead of elections or during periods of domestic pressure was a recurring pattern. Investors could use this knowledge to anticipate market volatility and adjust their portfolios accordingly. Another key takeaway was to focus on long-term trends rather than short-term market fluctuations. While Trump's policies undoubtedly caused short-term volatility, they did not fundamentally alter the long-term growth trajectory of Southeast Asia. Savvy investors recognized this and continued to invest in the region's strong fundamentals, such as its young population, growing middle class, and increasing urbanization. In essence, while Trump's trade wars presented challenges, they also created opportunities for those who could decipher the patterns, anticipate the moves, and act with strategic foresight. Section 7. Beyond the Headlines, a New Era of SEAnomics. The era of Trump's trade wars served as a wake-up call for Southeast Asia. It highlighted the region's vulnerabilities but also underscored its resilience and adaptability. As the region moves forward, it does so with a renewed focus on regional integration, economic diversification, and strategic autonomy. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations is playing an increasingly important role in fostering regional cooperation and integration. Initiatives like the ASEAN Economic Community aim to create a single market and production base, facilitating the free flow of goods, services, investment, and labor within the region. Southeast Asian nations are also actively pursuing trade agreements with other countries and blocs, reducing their reliance on any single partner. These agreements, such as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which includes China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, are creating new avenues for trade and investment. The Trump era, while tumultuous, ultimately pushed Southeast Asia to chart a more independent and resilient course. By embracing regionalism, diversification, and strategic autonomy, the region is well-positioned to navigate the complexities of the global economy and emerge stronger in the years to come.